Welcome to Miss Martin Music and another edition of Catholicsplaining. Prepare yourself, you are about to be Catholicsplained. And it is none other than Lent that we are Catholicsplaining, and I have with me once more the lovely Magitek Mags.
Hello again, Teresa. It's been a minute, but we're going from one liturgical, like you said in the back, one liturgical season to the next, and I am ready to get into the topic of Lent.
Yay, we're right in the middle too. Lent is so much fun. And we're gonna go into it now because people think I'm a weirdo when I say this. But I'm gonna let you know how fun it is. But before we do, let's talk about some more fun people. It is Shmoo.
Hi, Smoo.
Shmoo. See, this is the thing. There are a few things in Ireland that I picked up when I was a little girl, and I can't say I have to say Shmoo. Shmoo the DJ. I can't do an S without doing that. Shmoo. All right, here we go. Smoo the DJ. There we go.
Yes.
I can do it. I can do it if I think really hard. Hi, it's Corey Cochran who's here again. Yeah, thank you. Sorry we're late because part of the problem. Well, never mind why we're late. We were yapping. I'm sorry.
We were women.
Then lost track of time. Yeah,
we're women.
yeah, Biggles is here. Yeah, there we are. And there's Magitek Max saying hello. And it's Ubaldo T. Hello, everyone. We always like Darth Vader showing up and giving us a rose. Biggles Met says, my biggest problem with Lent is I don't know what days of the weeks it is. Well, if you would go to Mass every Sunday, you would. Busted. It's all right. It's cool. Well, you can Google it. I do that, or I look for it on my calendar. Like, when is Lent? Like, usually when is Ash Wednesday?
Well, a lot of times too. And sorry if I'm clearing my throat. It is also this, with it being the springtime, that also means allergy time. So I'm a little all of a sudden it's coming my throat all of a sudden. But sometimes too, with the changes, like sometimes it'll be like right now, Easter falls on March 30th, 31st, excuse me. And so it's kind of strange because typically, like, it's usually in April, so it kind of can maybe the with the liturgical calendar, how it moves around a little bit, can sometimes confuse people in terms of that regard. But Miss Teresa's right. If you go to Mass on Sundays, you might hear announcements and such about future.
Yeah, no, it's good. Oh, he clarified he doesn't know when it's Friday. He needs people to tell him what day it is. Okay. Sorry, we falsely accused you of being a mass mister.
Mea culpa.
Mea maxima culpa. Yeah, but well, I always love it. You always know when someone doesn't go to the Immaculate Conception, the holy day of obligation, just because they'll still try to say that the Immaculate Conception means when Jesus was conceived, and it's like, nope. You didn't go to Mass. And well, one of my favorite parts of liturgical season is the Assumption of Our Lady, and I call it the Harry Potter liturgy because the second reading is always the last enemy to be destroyed is death. And I'm like, it's the Deathly Hallows. So once you do it, you can't miss it. And that's why Latin is fun, because if you go to Mass in the Extraordinary Forum, there's Quasimodo Sunday, because Quasimodo is one of the introits, and that is why Quasimodo was named Quasimodo, because that was when he was found. So whenever it's Quasimodo and they're going Quasimodo, and you're like, it's the Hunchback of Notre Dame. You see, we make Catholicism fun here on Miss Martin Muses. So
we can make fun of ourselves a little bit. It works.
Absolutely. Yes. Hello, it is a Dega Outlaw. Hello. So yes, we are in the midst of Lent. Now, we actually just got through the midpoint in Laudate Sunday. That is from the introit as well, which for some reason, even though it is part of the new Mass, no one ever says it. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you people? Because it's a thing, and that's why they wear pink, or as some priests will clarify, it's not pink, it's rose. It is rose. And in England and Ireland, and maybe in other countries, that is Mother's Day. So Mother's Day switches around in those countries. It follows the liturgical calendar. So that's where we get that controversial picture from Princess Catherine of Wales, because
Yeah.
last Sunday was Mother's Day for people over there. Hello, thank you, Shmoo, for showing us support. I do appreciate it, and all of those that have. Yes, and as you all know, I did finally reach the 1,000. It was very triumphant. It was very.
Sorry.
Oh no, that's great. That's great. And it was all Ryan's fault, because first of all, Ryan Kinnell is awesome, and he was on for pub crawl. And we were yapping. He's like, "Well, how much you need?" And I was like, "Well, this, that, and that, and this." And he did not have to do this, but he did. And I put it on my Twitter. On one of his streams, he had like 2,000 people. And he's like, "Hey, this is ridiculous. Come on, get Teresa to 1,000." And boom, it was like seconds. And so, yeah, he's an amazing guy, because again, he didn't have to do that, and he did. We've been friends for a very long time, since long before the COOF. We were in an EU book club, and even he's one of those that I'm gonna start simping on him. He's up to like nearly 300,000 subs, and he hasn't changed a bit. He's great, and we all still get together when we can, and it's just a really, really good time. Yes, Biggles was there. It was pretty cool. It was, and maybe I'll try to get permission from him to make a little video about it. I know it sounds like I'm a big simp, but I was so happy when it happened, because I could have gotten there faster, but life happened and I didn't do regular content. And then when it did, I just need some watch hours. So if y'all wouldn't mind helping me with some watch hours. Someone said, "Damn it, Ryan." Yeah. Oh, look who it is. We have a vampire in the house.
Oh,
Nosferatu the vampire. Oh, I hope
you're around.
I hope our thumbnail didn't trigger you, as a crucifix. But simp, yes, I'm a simp. Hey, and I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill. And is it dying on that hill? Yes, I think it is.
So it's die on that hill. Yep. Well, I mean, especially if you go way back, and you've worked together, you've been in discussions together, and the same behind the scenes as basically offline as you are online. Yeah, of course, you sing the praises of somebody. So yeah, I mean, especially if he he didn't have to do that, but he did, and that was really generous of him.
Yes. And that's not to downplay everyone else that was sharing, because I want to make that clear. I got well, it's like, no, that doesn't mean I didn't love everyone else, because I know, because I would not have gotten here if everyone hadn't been retweeting.
That's exactly what you're saying. Come on now, I was kidding.
No, you know what I'm saying. I really couldn't have, because I've been really doing really well lately. I got mostly monetized, and then all of this, and everyone was retweeting, and just the loads of support. So yes, I got that bump over, but it was everybody. So thank you. And enough of the simping here. Let's simp for Lent. We simp for Lent here at Miss Martin Uses. Yeah, this year it was an odd Ash Wednesday, because it fell on Valentine's Day. So for all of those people who had given up candy for Lent, it sucked to be them. I was seeing it. Have you given up candy for Lent, Magitek?
I gave up alcohol.
Oh, well done.
Let me tell you, as an accountant, we were dealing with the audit season. It's over, thank goodness. But it was the audit season during Lent, or the beginning part of the year, and it was rushed to the finish line to make sure everything was turned in for the auditors, kind of thing. And of course, Lent had to fall right around that period, and of course, it was a struggle, because I made that decision. I was like, you know what? I feel like this is too much part of my life, a little bit. So I'm gonna, it wasn't candy. I feel like candy's for me. I'm not saying about this about anybody else, but I felt like candy to me was a little bit too easy, or too easy to really fall back on. And let me tell you, as an accountant, because the reason why you might see some drunk accountants at the end of the month is because they finally finished up the books for the month. But let me tell you, it was I'm not gonna lie, it was I had a lot of stressful nights and days, and it was hard. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm glad I've made it this far because that was really
Mhm.
rough.
Well, well
But
done.
yes.
Well, I'm an expert in giving up alcohol, but I gave it up well, okay. 2018. Let me just say that. And it
Mm,
was March 17th, 2018.
mm.
Yeah, I know how hard it is when you start, but it's best to stop before it becomes a big problem. So the
Well,
fact
and
that
I
you're
wanted
able to stop
to
for Lent is good.
I wanted to I wanted to it's more like a reflection of the self as well as a challenge for the self too.
Mhm,
It's not because I was, I wasn't becoming dependent on it or whatever, but it was more like, okay, I see where some of my triggers are in terms of if I'm overly stressed out. It's kind of like you want to go for
mhm,
candy, you want to get some, you want to grab chips at the vending machine. You kind of want to break something now or break the habit now before it gets worse. If there's anything like that, not that it would end up down that road, but it's not good for my health overall, regardless of the situation. So,
no, and that's a good point. That's also a good point about why people traditionally give up things for Lent is you try to find like maybe where there's some bad habits you have.
yes.
And as you said, you start to find your triggers. And part of that finding your triggers is where is my thinking off? Cuz they always one of the sayings of AA is I don't have a drinking problem, I have a thinking problem. And
Mhm.
it's like, why when I get stressed do I want to go get chocolate? And now because it gives us short-term comfort, but it just shows you, there's something wrong with my thinking that I'm just not dealing with this situation in a more healthy way. I'm trying to
Right.
cover it up. Yeah, so that's one thing it can be. And the reason why I said traditionally is because giving up something for Lent is actually not a requirement. I'm glad that Ubaldo said this. He says, I don't give up anything. I try to be a better person. Every year has helped me overall with my family and friends. And
That's
that,
a good way. Yeah.
yeah. And so, yeah, it does not have to be food. It does not have to be candy or anything to that effect. It can be what I do. I find a vice that I have a tendency toward, and I try to zone in on it at Lent. And it can also be a positive thing. For example, you spend more time helping the poor. You spend time, I don't know, with grandma or someone that's lonely in your life, or maybe you give up gossiping. You things that you just realize are not good or healthy spiritually or mentally.
Mhm.
Yeah, stress is usually the main cause, yes, and
Yep.
everyone's like 100%. Yeah, so you
Mhm.
actually do not have to give up anything for Lent, but what you do have to do, and we're gonna get into that, is there is fasting and abstinence, and
Yes.
the which is really good on 2 levels because it does it in a hyper manner. What you focus on what you're attached to, but also it unifies us in a way that makes me wish we'd go back to abstinence every Friday all the time because there's
Mhm.
something about when Friday rolls around and everyone's getting fish or eating vegetarian or we have fish fries at church. It's something that identifies us together.
Well, and it also gives us it kinda like it's a refocus or realignment of,
Mhm.
you have to how do we I'm trying to form the words in my head, sorry.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like you have to be very conscientious about it. You always have to think about it. It's not like something that is, um, eh how do I explain this? Something that you typically do all the time. It's more like, "Oh, okay, it's Friday. We shouldn't have meat because of this, that, and the other." It's kind of like it's not just a physical, but it's also a spiritual and mental reminder of what the meaning is and what the purpose is. It's kind of like a little it's kind of like a small little in a way, it's like a small little like going to church, kind of like you're reminded of the reason why you're doing this that very day.
Mhm.
Um, and it's those little reminders that I feel like for me, it helps ground me. I don't know about
Mhm.
anybody else, but it helps ground me and like instead of constantly thinking about the self, you have to think about other things that can affect other people, other things, other situations. And, as Catholics, we all believe we're all the one body of Christ. So if we need to be able to be self-conscious or conscientious of the fact that we could be affecting other people in our lives too. So if we do
Hmm.
these small little sacrifices in prayer, in fasting or something like that, it's an effort for everybody to do. Um
Hmm. Yeah, and as a part of that, as we do that,
mhm,
we're we're encouraged to go to confession. Like, you
mhm,
actually really should go to confession during this season. Technically, the bare minimum is that you confess your mortal sins once a year. And it's like, yeah, right. When I say yeah, right, I mean, and it's like that is such the bare minimum. You should not be going to confession once a year. And technically, unless you're mortal, it's only mortal sin. So technically, if you're not in a state of mortal sin, you don't have to go once a year. But unless you're like Jesus, it's a very, very small probability. But technically, yes, it's called your Easter duty. So you need to go to confession to
mhm.
get that out, and then receive the Eucharist during the Easter season. Uh,
It's kind of like a mini baptism. Like it's a cleansing of the soul for the
mhm.
new life that Jesus and God has promised us. So
Yeah, correct. Well, my only comment about that, Biggles, who says I might scar a priest for life. I had a priest once say to us, "Your lives are not that exciting." I promise you. Because that was like I think it was at college where people were like, "Well, I'm in Bear, you're gonna hear these terrible things," and he's just like, "Really?" We go to prisons, we go, we hear all these sorts of things.
I
Uh,
mean, as
yeah,
if you haven't murdered anybody, I don't think we're that special with
yeah,
what
we're
we've
not
done.
gonna have it, or gee whiz, I took the Lord's name in vain, or a sexual sin is like, yeah, we've never heard that before.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
I got drunk and slept with a stranger. Oh, gee, that's never happened in the history of humanity or whatever. But always be aware of your surroundings and the people around you, not just yourself. Correct. Yeah, that's my
Mhm.
house. Wow. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, priests are awesome. Uh, They're fun to hang out with. They're really funny people.
The
But
cool priests, sorry to
go
interrupt
ahead.
there. The cool priests are the priests that actually take confessions from other priests because they're very, and not that I'm saying that, like, of course they don't break the seal of confession, but
Hmm.
they are mentally trained for that.
Hmm.
Like, that's a very special kind of role because I'm sure there we're all human beings.
Hmm.
We're not God. So, we're all human beings when we all struggle regardless of our office in life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well,
I
there was
should
a
well.
really yeah, hello, we love Shield Wall. Well, actually, we love everyone here at Miss Smart Muses, except for Biggles, who's the center. No,
He doesn't go to Sunday school. Just
we
kidding.
well, no, there was a movie, and I think it was partially based on truth about Saint Damien, the leper priest, and it was played by the actor David Whittam, who plays Faramir. He played Father Damien. It was so that alone makes it the greatest movie ever, saint movie ever made. Oh, and he was amazing, by the way. He was amazing, very pious David Wyndham, but
Mhm.
because no one wanted to get leprosy, and so he had to like shout his confession, and they did it in French. So he's like on a boat yelling up to the dude, and he's confessing his sin. So it's a pretty funny scene, but it is based on fact. Understandable, says Pickles. Yeah, it's a good movie, but it's actually hard to watch because it's very sad about lepers. They would just dump them on an island, and
Well, they didn't know
leave
how to
them.
deal with them because they didn't, of course, now we know how to treat them, but I
Mhm.
mean, back then they just didn't know.
Yeah, and it was dangerous, and they used to do the same thing with the plague. To
Mhm.
just but technically, this is from the USCCB, United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Lent is a 40-day season of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving that begins on Ash Wednesday and ends at sundown on Holy Thursday. So it's done on Holy Thursday, sometimes called Maundy Thursday, the Mass of the Lord's Supper. So then begins what we call the Triduum, which is a whole other ball game in of itself. So see, fasting. So yeah, fasting, almsgiving, and it's not technically 40 days. It
Yes.
can be, it's a little more, a little less, but it sounds good, and it's approximation of it because it mirrors 40 days in the desert. Sorry,
Yep.
40 years in the desert for the Israelites. 40 days, Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, as the hymn says, and all of that. Squeaky is here. I'm sorry, Squeaka is here. When I was little, I thought getting my ashes made me a superhero.
Oh.
That's so cute. Yeah, and that's another thing. Sometimes people say, "Well, didn't Jesus say don't show and brag before the people when you are fasting?" That's not why we have ashes. And
Mhm.
it can be a form of pride. It can be misused, but the reason why you get ashes on your head on Ash Wednesday is it's a biblical thing that when you are in a state of penance, you put ashes on your head.
Mhm.
It's a thing. So and traditionally, because we are Catholics and Jesus and all that, they make it in the sign of the cross because it's through Jesus that we are saved. So it's actually a sign of penitence and
Mhm.
not a sign of bragging. Oh, I missed him. Salty swaveling. Salty swaveling marriage, which brings us together today.
Today.
I can't talk. I'll tell you, my brain cells have been completely sucked out. Squeaky Mouse, you're a superhero to me. Aw, that's cute. Well, thank you for being here, Salty Traveling C. Yes. So, and we don't wear sackcloth. A sackcloth. What happened to the sackcloth? Hello, Schwanzer. Yeah, true. We should have sackcloth and ashes. I guess if you're a penitent, traditionally penitents would wear sackcloth. And some of that wild stuff you'd hear about in the Middle Ages where they go around and beat themselves and flagellation, if I'm right.
I think
Because once I accidentally called it flatulation. I think flatulation and flagellation are two
oh my
different
gosh,
things.
Teresa, you did
And everyone laughed at me. So you just imagine everyone going around with gas. I think flagellation is where you're doing that. He's twaveling. Yes, twaveling. My
uh
grand said it was Jesus's way of reminding you the next morning we didn't wash ours off all night. Oh, yes.
oh,
Yeah, and you don't wash it off until you kind of have to. Squeak a mouse,
yeah.
you are correct. Opus Dei, the work of God.
Mhm.
Uh,
And I think too, what is it? Again, I'm not good on recall, so I'm probably a terrible Catholic for that. But wasn't Saint Catherine or one of the saints that would just like always uh beat themselves or whack themselves all the time or something like that? I can't quite
well,
remember.
a lot of them did. Carmelites used to do that a lot. They would call it taking the discipline.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
But I
Or
think there was a famous saint that did it a
yeah,
lot
probably St.
too.
Catherine did. She
I
was
think
a
it was Saint
little
Catherine.
extreme. She was something else.
I mean, more power to her, right?
Exactly. And it
No disrespect, Saint Catherine.
yeah, yeah. You're a smart lady, doctor of the church.
Mhm.
And technically, you kind of can still do that, but it's not encouraged too often because
Well, there's some practices like even from like Judaism into Christianity and everything. We don't
Mhm.
follow all of those practices anymore for very good reasons. A lot of times those practices were good at the time because
Well, it was also the kind of the mindset
yeah, yeah.
and and now we know maybe that's just not
It's
such
more
a good idea.
it was custom back then, but then you learn that that's probably not the best custom or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
But the idea of wearing a hair shirt though, that's still kind of appropriate to a certain degree as long as it doesn't hurt you because like wearing something that's very uncomfortable or scratchy, that's a reminder and the idea there is to tame the flesh. That's the thinking. behind
Yeah.
it.
I don't know if that would, it's if people want to do that, it's cool, but I don't think it's really I don't think it would work in today's world, mainly
Mhm.
because of everybody working. Um, and if it's gonna drive you nuts and take you away from production from work, that might be an issue.
Yeah,
Um,
and that actually brings up a good point because some practices that you will find are appropriate for people in religious life, but they are
yes.
not for the laity. I know sometimes people have said, "Well, Saint Teresa of Lisieux, my namesake, she did that." And like, yes, because she was a Carmelite. I'm not a Carmelite. Trust me, I'm not. I wouldn't get through 3 steps in there. I've been to that convent, by the way. It's awesome, but it, there's 2 states in life. So maybe and that's the other thing about some of the extra prayers. Yeah, if you're a nun, especially nuns, because nuns, there's 2 different kinds of religious, by the way. A lot of people put them together. There's
Mhm,
nuns and sisters. Nuns are cloistered. Sisters are the ones that you see going about teaching, working in hospitals, and going about feeding the poor like Mother Teresa. So we usually call them nuns, but technically they're not nuns. They're sisters, and then nuns are cloistered, and it's the same similar with monks versus friars.
mhm.
Friars are the ones that go out and about, and monks are staying in monasteries. Not taking a bath for a year due to bad humors was also a thing back then. Yeah, exactly. And we live and learn. So there are some things that were appropriate. And this is where it comes to things like the fasting. You can fast as much as you want
Mhm.
on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday because those are the 2 fasting days. And you can also fast very minimally. The minimum fast is 1 meal and 2 snacks. And the idea is that you don't snack in between, but you can have juice and milk in between. If you are a child, you see, you don't fast until you're 18, from ages 18 to 59. So once you turn 60, because the idea is you're old. But the guidelines also say if you're on if you're pregnant, if you're on medication, if you're
Right.
sick, if you're operating heavy machinery and all that, don't fast. So
Right.
it's not a hard rule that you have to fast. You have to fast with prudence. For example, I
Mhm.
don't really fast because I am on a certain medication where it would actually make me sick didn't if I
Well,
tried to
and
not have a full stomach, or I couldn't take the medicine on an empty stomach.
not only that, sometimes it could certainly kill people if you're not careful.
Mhm.
Like diabetics. Um, you need to uh, sorry, but you have to follow the insulin and your readings and your numbers and make sure
Yeah.
that you're following that, or if something were to if your blood sugar drops dramatically, you have to eat something regardless. So,
Mhm.
like, certain people are and that and it doesn't have to be a permanent sickness. You can get the flu and you're
Mhm.
sick and miserable or whatever, and you might need to you're the next day you're in recovery mode, it ends up being Friday or whatever. Sometimes you need to eat something to kind of regain what you've lost. So
Mhm.
that is eh, I'm sure a long time ago it was different, but I think today God wants us also to be prudent in our be intelligent and also prudent in what we need to be doing too. It's not, he doesn't want us to
Mhm.
kill ourselves.
Yeah. Well
So
well, even back then, people could be dispensed from the fastings for that reason, but
yeah.
it was a little easier, though, to maybe go more hardcore, like you were saying. You're minding your own business and you're a peasant in the 13th century in a village. Everyone's a Catholic. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, Ash Wednesday, no one works. It's not like the rest of the world goes on.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 Oh gosh, now they're talking about leeches.
Oh no,
I don't do
guys,
these things anymore.
we
So,
don't that is no well, I
and
think
I
it
should also add, if you are caregiving as well, because you need to be healthy to be there for the other people.
Yep.
Yeah, Squeakus says, "My, gran had us no candy all Lent, we didn't fast." Yes. Yeah. Well, and you don't fast if you're young, and the same thing with the abstinence. I think abstinence starts at age 16, or is it 14?
I don't remember. I just know I think what my like and I it sometimes it's family to family. So it just
Mhm,
dependent on that too. Like yes, we have the age um the minimum and the maximum age requirements to kind of keep things uniform and have some sort of guidance or rule
mhm,
set, so to speak, so that it's not like all over the place or people cherry pick what they can and cannot do, although they probably still do that today.
mhm,
Excuse me. But I know with my parents and with my family, we were already eating, like, pizza and doing fish fry I mean, of course, my parents had to, but we were
mhm,
already doing no meat and doing fish stuff and pizzas and everything on Fridays. So, it
mhm.
was kind of like I don't I don't remember there being, like, a big deal transition into when you hit 18 or 16 or 18 when you're supposed to do the whole Lenten thing. It's like, it was kind of gradually transitioned, and it was almost like, okay, this is what we do."
Yeah,
Uh, maybe we started doing it when some of us kids got a little bit older. I
mhm.
mean, my brothers and I didn't really have a problem with that. It's
Yeah.
just
And again, that might be something more of back in the olden days when, because they would say, "Take some meat," to get some protein. It's not like where they could get readily get something like a, a fish, or or nourishment, for example, or like
Mhm.
where broth or beef broth would be something that would give the kids nourishment since they were growing. But
Yeah.
at
Especially with boys, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, and I remember at the Catholic school, like, they would have, like, grilled cheese sandwiches on Friday. So, yeah,
Mhm.
it was no big deal whether you're a kindergartner or older.
You're kind
It's fine.
it was part of the culture as it were
Mhm.
already, so to speak, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I should also add a saying here, yeah, also, get a little deeper in prayer, and, sometimes people have a goal of reading the scriptures more, or maybe reading all the gospels, or studying a particular book in the New Testament. Uh, some maybe decide to be more diligent in doing the liturgy of the hours, the
Mhm.
night prayer or matins. You can do that. Giving alms and practice self control through fasting. Yeah, that's another thing, and it's in preparation for Easter,
Mhm.
and part of that is because it's leading up to baptism. For people that are going to be baptized, they get baptized at the Easter vigil. It's where they are preparing by going into the desert for 40 days, and we go along with them, and on Easter Sunday
Mhm.
we renew our baptism vows. So we renew our baptism vows every year, along with the people getting baptized. So they do their vows and they get baptized, and it's a very beautiful thing to
Oh, it
see.
is. Was it because for usually for at least in my diocese, they do it Easter Vigil,
Yes.
um, and it's very long mass, especially if you're if you're in the choir.
Yeah, it will
But
last
it's
about 3 to 4 hours, but
yes, but
it
it's very
is
beautiful.
awesome.
It's very beautiful, and then it's all the music is just is fantastic. Um,
Yeah, because you go through the entire Old Testament. Well, it starts with, like, in the beginning, there is light. There you go outside and there's a fire, and and you light a fire, and everyone lights
it's
their candles, and the Easter candle gets lit, and from there it's blessed, and then we go through the Old Testament, all the creation and Genesis and salvation history, and then finally, when you get once you're done with that and you get to the gospel and everything, then the Gloria rings out. It's amazing.
and the cool thing about it too, at least when I was in the choir at a different parish, um, like we didn't get to go outside because it would just be too crowded outside and trying to get everybody walking back in and everything. But
Mhm.
my favorite part, and because I was up in the where the organ area was in the balcony, that's a lack of a better term.
Choir loft.
Thank you, choir.
You're welcome. I
God,
know
I'm like my
you've
brain.
been fasting too much.
I've been fasting, and it's also allergy season, so my brain's a little it's a little even today I told my mom, I was like, I feel like I'm a little off today. Like my
Yeah.
brain's just not functioning or something. But anyway, but just watching everybody come in because you have the big brand new Easter candle and it's huge and it's gorgeous and everything else. And you know what it was, everybody always had these little mini candles
Mhm.
in the pews, and from the Easter candle we would from the inside aisle, um we would light somebody would light their candle and pass it down. So you see this effect of more light just gradually growing and this
Mhm.
sea of candles, and it's just so it's moving. It's very, very
Mhm.
moving. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Seeing it from above like that, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah. And then the Easter proclamation and the light of Christ. Thanks
Mhm.
be to God. I know there's a fancy Latin word for that part, but I forget it. And it's just it- oh, and I was gonna say also the bells aren't rung
Mhm.
and Alleluia is not said or sung. So then when it is, it's
It's
just
just
really awesome.
it's all just it comes back with in such glory. It's just it's beautiful.
Yeah. So it's like we relive the resurrection because the church knows that we are human. We need these kind of reminders. We need these rituals. And it says here, we are called not only to abstain from luxuries during Lent, but to a true inner conversion of heart as we seek to follow Christ's will more faithfully. We've kind of been talking about this. And
Mhm.
as they're getting ready for their baptism, the catechumens, but also us, and to renew them, it's very much like I always reflect, why am I a Christian? Why
Uh,
am I, Jesus? Why am I a Catholic? All of these things. And then when
I
you
have
renew
my own
your
struggles
vows,
too.
well, no, but you know what I'm trying to say. But I mean,
Yeah.
hey, I'm never leaving. But you know what I'm
No, I'm
saying?
not
It's
either.
because sometimes it's like, why are we here? And just a reminder of what it all is really truly all about in your
Mhm.
relationship with Jesus and your baptism vows. So then when you do, and he says, just like in The Godfather, do you renounce Satan? And you're like, I do. And because we've already been through the temptation in the desert, and and then, do you believe in Jesus Christ? Do you believe in that? So that's what we're actually preparing for that moment. Now, also, it's customary. I should quit using tradition because tradition with a capital T is something completely different. It's
Yeah.
customary that uh, those that are already Christians, Protestants like me, I was one of them, that are joining the church, that they come in, but it doesn't have to be. You can join the church at any time. Well, technically, you can be baptized at any time too, but
Mhm.
it's just felt that it's just more appropriate to also bring in them at the same time because it's also a milestone, and since the whole community is there with Easter. So what you do is, if you are a, a Protestant, essentially you're already a Christian, you're already baptized, and the church will not rebaptize you because baptism is baptism. You make a profession of faith before the assembly, and then you're welcome in, and then you get confirmed along with everyone else and then receive your first communion. So you'll also see that, but that's what we're getting ready for. So you seek to follow Christ's will more faithfully. Lent beats uh I'm not if you're saying what I'm thinking I'm saying, I'm not going to say it out loud because I just got to 1,000. I swear if I get demonetized, I'm going to lose my crap.
It'll
Okay.
be all your fault, Salty.
Yeah, salty, and then I'll hate you and I'll hunt you down. No, I won't. No, it was really sweet though. I don't think I read it aloud, but I did highlight it. I think that Squeak was saying that her grandma would have them say the rosary every Wednesday at Lent, and
Mhm.
that's really cool. And those are probably great memories. Yeah, here we go. Hey, how did you know this, USCCB? We recall waters of baptism in which we were also baptized into Christ's death, died to sin and evil, and began a new life in Christ. So we're meditating on all these things.
We're trying so Lent is basically a dying to the self.
Hmm.
Um, and it's you talk about almsgiving. What does that mean? It means thinking beyond your nose, thinking, about your thinking not about yourself, thinking about those who are that this is probably that's the wrong phrase I have in my head.
Less
Those
fortunate.
Thank you, less fortunate. It's and to not only that, but it's not just yes, don't through donations, through money giving, through sacrificing your own income that you've worked hard for the community, but it's also good works. It's also community service, something, going to the soup kitchen or something like that, going to a nursing home, and
Mhm.
visiting the elderly there that don't have family members visiting them anymore.
Mhm.
um there's Lent is a good way to, I mean, you talk about talk about some self-improvement books. I think they need to take a page out of Lent
Mhm.
because that is a good way to really, I mean, it's not just a one-time thing. It is literally 40 days of trying to recorrect yourself from being selfish to selfless.
Mm.
Um, and knowing the why this is important. It's not about you.
Yeah. And also, I should say this before someone loses their crap.
Uh-oh.
Penance is actually it's all these things, but there is actually a command and a reparation aspect of penance as
Mhm.
well. Because I don't know if you ever say you're trying to make it sound all pretty and all that. It's like no, we
Oh.
do acknowledge that, and why? Because Jesus tells us pray and fast and for your sins. Uh, and that's not saying that by our actions we're doing anything. So there is also an aspect of it, like all these things that we've been talking about a positive mindset, but it's also, if you done wrong, you need to kind
You
of
need to
make it
confess it.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to, it's not just you know, forgiveness is forgiveness, but it's also, are you following through on that forgiveness? Are you following through on, yeah, you've made a mistake. We're all human.
Hmm.
But are you willing to are you willing to take
Suffer.
accountability? Yeah, willing to suffer and take accountability. Yes, it's
Yeah.
humiliating. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
we're all human, but that's how we become better people.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I could just see the comments going, "Are you just trying to be one of those touchy-feely kind?" It's like, "No, trust me, I'm
no.
not touchy-feely. No, I know I'm hardcore. I know all about sin."
Nah, they could direct that at me. I probably sound more touchy-feely than anything else. But I don't know, that's how I take it.
No,
I don't know.
no, you're exactly right. No, and I've been saying the same thing because it's not just what you do with your body, and I think sometimes there has been a wrong reasoning for de-emphasizing sometimes that aspect of it because in the past maybe it was too overemphasized. It's like, no, we can find a balance because just doing penance for the sake of penance, that doesn't do anything. It has to be connected to your soul and your mindset and toward a goal, not just I just feel like doing penance because. And because that can also get very dangerously close to thinking like you can earn grace, which
Yeah, like,
we reject.
yeah, we you, it's kind of like you have to do this without expectations of anything in return.
Hmm.
Um, it's a very weird concept to understand for a lot of people because because people are so materialistic. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying that we're perfect either in that regard, but I think, when you shed that materialism or materialistic attitude, it's it's like serving the poor. It's like serving this or that or what have you, to be able to give up of yourself knowing without any expectation in return. That is a
Hmm.
hard concept that any human has to go through. And it's,
Yeah.
Lent is kind of that, again, refocus of what the real meaning is.
Yeah. No good deed ever goes unpunished, but it's
Mhm.
still worth it. And I did bring up this slide because this is from Catholic Answers. Lent is where do we get the word Lent? Lent is the Old English word for spring. In almost all other languages, Lent's name is a derivative of the Latin term quadragesima. All right, quadragesima, or the 40 days.
Mhm.
So in other languages, it'll mean something 40. They did give some examples, but I can't pronounce them, so I decided not to make an Egypt of myself. So, but in Lent, for us in the English language, it comes from spring. Well, why from spring? Because it usually happens during springtime.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um,
The more you know.
yep. Yep.
Oh, this is a very good thing. Your grand sounds like she was amazing. Quit Squeaky Mouse says, I don't know if it was just my grand being unusual, but we had to gain a good habit for Lent too. Oh gosh, that's a great idea. She understood. She knew her stuff. Yes. I never thought about. I mean, I try to focus on what's good and right, but to genuinely find a good habit to add to my arsenal.
So it's basically, I mean, look at it this way. Your grand sounds really cool. When it's done, when
Yeah.
I'm done with Lent, I wish I could have a beer with her. But anyway, it sounds like it's kind of like this: shedding a vice, or shedding a vice and gaining a virtue.
Mhm.
That's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, this could be an example I'll use. You're trying not to drink alcohol. Well, what could you do to make a better habit of that? Maybe drink more water. Because water is actually good for you and hydrates you and all that, and alcohol is the opposite. So in other words, that instead of drinking something that's bad for you, you're drinking something that's good for you. Maybe that's
Mm.
a could be an example there. Very simplistic, but
Now,
it
I don't know if you'll probably bring this up, so I'm probably
Mhm.
jumping ahead.
No,
But
that's all right.
there are holy days during Lent.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna be talking about that.
Well,
Okay.
no, let's, okay. Well, before we do get there,
Yeah, I don't
I
wanna jump
wanted to
ahead too
say
much.
no, it's all right. This is what the Catechism of the Catholic Church says, because I think that they put this very well. Uh, I said about the 40 days and it going along with Jesus to what he experienced, but it says something really cool about what was going on with Jesus in the desert. Jesus's temptation reveals the way in which the Son of God is Messiah, contrary to the way Satan proposes to him and the way men wish to attribute to him. This is why Christ vanquished the tempter for us. Emphasis on the catechism that Jesus does it for us. We don't do it for ourselves. For we
Mhm.
have not a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who is in every respect been tested as we are, yet without sinning. By the solemn 40 days of Lent, the church unites herself each year to the mystery of Christ in the desert. That's rich.
Mhm.
And I never thought about it that way also where yeah, that if you are the son of God, turn the rocks into bread, show off your powers, and bow down and worship me too. Those are the three ways that Jesus is the antithesis to that in the good way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
there's loads of good reading too out there, but not don't forget tempting because why do we have vice? Why do we have these issues? It's because, you know, there is the tempter out there who wants to ruin our souls.
Something happened in the Garden of Eden, and
Yeah, original sin.
Oh my
Oh gosh,
gosh.
she says, Squeaka says, you're going to spend the next 40 days learning how to be a better you so you can rise anew on Easter too. She said that all the time. Yeah. I gave up Swiss cheese one year. That was difficult. Well, if that's something you like, that's intense. Look, it's Mr. Gregory. Hello. Yeah,
Hello.
yeah. We've had to reschedule our pub crawl, but we will work it out. So please stay tuned, everybody. He's going to be our debut for night 5. We were talking about drinking and sobriety, but we're all going to end up in a bar. But I always say it's a metaphorical bar. I because they're always like, "But I don't drink." It's like, no, it's a metaphor because I don't drink either. So I drink soda or coffee or water. Once I must admit, I did drink during pub crawl a 0 alcohol Guinness, which I'm glad it exists. And it wasn't the same, but at least, it was kind of something that approximated Guinness. And obviously there's a market for it. But yeah, but temptation. So like while we're going all through this and trying to improve ourselves, improve relationship with Jesus and with the community, all that good stuff and getting ready for Jesus, don't forget the tempter is there. So Lynn
Mhm.
also reminds us the devil's real and he's messing with you. And for those of that say the devil's not real, go on Twitter and see some of those something that rhymes with mag-eens, and you tell me that there's not the devil out there seeking to
Mm.
ruin souls and our children.
There's some things I wish I could unsee and put bleach in my eyes. Let's just put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, I like the non-alcoholic beers. Yeah, actually, there are some really good ones. Maybe we'll talk about that one time at Biggles. But non-alcoholic Guinness is not quite the same. Yeah, I remember
Do you
what it was like, but I don't drink anymore.
do you think drinking non-alcoholic beverages counts as still okay in terms of not drinking alcohol?
Um, are you talking about for Lent or for if
Yeah,
you're a
I'm
friend of
just
a friend of Bill's? But if you're a friend of
no.
Bill's, oh yes, it's okay. Trust me, the alternative is much worse. You mean so if you yeah, so yeah, because it's no alcohol, so you're
Okay,
not drinking.
gotcha.
It's not any danger of relapse there. But if you're
Yeah.
talking about you wanting to see if you can cheat and I should have known. I don't know. I honestly don't know because you're giving up alcohol for a different reason.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
but
that'd be I should have asked that to the
yeah.
priest, but it's made me really research for me personally. It's helped me
Mhm.
research what's truly non-alcohol versus the ones that say quote unquote non-alcohol, but they have like 0.4% alcohol. I'm like, that's
Mhm.
not a non-alcoholic. What are you talking
Mhm.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is different. I mean, because you can't get drunk off
No.
of yeah, you'd have to yeah, but I know what you mean, and that's a different story. I
Yeah.
gotta scoot. Thank you so much, Squeak. I'll listen to the
Oh,
rest later. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, it
yeah.
counts.
Bye, Squeaka.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, if you're talking about something that goes with 2 letters and one of them's A and the other's A, that's different from maybe if you're doing something for Lent. But
Mhm.
uh, I drink all the time that sparkling grape juice and I mix it with club soda and put it in a wine glass. Yeah, so and yeah, obviously, I mean, that's not alcohol, obviously.
Well, it's like I've been doing like sometimes like like I want to call it virgin tonics, but you know what I'm talking about. Instead of
Oh, I
like a
know what you're
vodka,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
virgin drinks, yeah.
vodka instead of vodka tonic or something like that. I've just done just straight up tonic water and like a little uh lime, cut
Oh,
of
yeah.
lime, and it's like, hey, that's perfectly fine to sip on with some ice. So
Oh, yeah, and that could be replacing one bad habit with another good habit because it's really not a big deal. It's just basically all you're drinking is a soda, but you're putting it in a fancy glass. Because in some ways, it's also psychological.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And yeah, at least with tonic water, it has quinine in it, and that's good for you in
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, mocktails.
Mocktails, yep.
Yeah, yeah, tried mocktail. Oh, yeah, one of these days, I'm gonna make some videos called it's gonna be like a virgin, but I don't know if I can actually technically call it that on YouTube.
Oh, because of the yeah, because of the
And
song
have all
title.
my virgin drink recipes. So and I've got a lot. I've got a lot. They're really good, but uh well, and I think though some of the mocktail situation that could count as sweets or a dessert. So if you're giving up things like desserts, maybe not. But if in your case, like you were saying, hey, I'm trying not to stress drink, then yeah, replacing it with something else is perfectly fine. Like I became a tea taster. I'm a connoisseur of teas now. So quinine
Oh,
is good for you, says Michael Simon. It was often mixed with poisons to create misleading symptoms. Oh yeah, and they used to use that to in medicine as well. I like the taste of it though.
but
Yeah, I think
doesn't
it's in tonic, isn't it? Maybe that's
but it's in tonic water, but you don't get malaria if you have quinine in your system.
well, there you go. You see, we're stopping malaria. All those drinking
I gotta beat the I'm being bad. Well, no, I'm not gonna say the
yeah.
term because I don't want you
No
know what
one
I was gonna
wants to
say.
get malaria.
No.
All right. So this is the end of my kind of little presentation thing. So
Mhm.
let's slide a little bit into the different feast days that you will find during Lent. And I've got something fun that ties in. But what were you thinking, Max?
Well, I know when I went to well, when you're going to Catholic school all your life, including college, there you celebrate all the feast days or the major, especially the major ones. You have this, and during Lent, especially, there's St. Patrick's Day, which is coming up this Sunday, and
Mhm.
then of course on the 19th is St. Joseph. So,
Yay! Sorry, I love my Saint Joseph.
oh no, I love them too. I mean, I'm a fan of fathers.
Yeah.
um, but so those were, at least for us in college, those were the two major feast days that we
Mhm.
celebrated. I know there's Saint Cath. I think is it Saint Catherine, or there's a third,
There's a lot of Catherines out there.
but as far as like major feast days, because you have Saint Patrick, and then you have Saint Joseph, and I feel
Well,
like
you
there was
also have the Solemnity of the Incarnation. That's
yes,
actually technically the hugest one
the
in
biggest
there.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, technically. But as far as if you're talking about a saint, I can't think of another one that I associate with Lent. But yeah, I love the old one too. You celebrate St. Patrick, and then on March 19th, that's where you have Italian food, because
Mhm.
not because Joseph was Italian, but he's the patron of Italy and or definitely Sicily. So a lot of
Yes.
Italian immigrants really would celebrate it and celebrate it with Italian food.
Exactly. Exactly. Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of times, I know like countries in particular would have, like Ireland or something like that would have
Mhm.
special dispensation and all that kind of stuff because, well, St. Patrick was very instrumental in converting Ireland. But like, I guess sometimes I know well, because I'm part of an Irish Catholic group and everything, and a lot of times we have like Irish celebrations and all that kind of stuff, like an Irish festival to help raise in funds for the
Mhm.
community and everything else. So a lot of times, especially on like St. Patrick's Day, we, as a courtesy, ask the bishop here in the diocese
Mhm.
if we could get special dispensation.
Yeah.
It's kind of automatic in a way because there's a big Irish Catholic community in general in the diocese, but it's always good to ask the bishop so that way you can make sure you're getting
Yeah.
you're
Well,
getting
and
the right
especially
messaging.
when it falls on a Friday, most bishops in America just automatically give the dispensation
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's like you can eat meat and celebrate and all that because of its importance. And of course, in Ireland, it's a holy day of obligation.
Yes.
It's one of the
Yes.
holy days of obligation, and you're off school and everyone goes to mass. And well, hopefully they still do. I don't know. Ireland's kind of going crazy. Actually, though, there is still there's a very strong faithful resistance in
I think
Ireland right now. But yes,
I think
and
they're fighting back. So there
mhm.
you go.
Yeah, a lot of rosary rallies have been going on because Our Lady helped him out against the British. But
Mhm.
yeah, and the same thing with Saint Joseph's Day, though. I think you gotta really try to prove it a little bit. Like I once went to an Italian parish in an Italian neighborhood, and yeah, we weren't faking it. But yeah, it's like it's just an excuse to party. It's like it's not appropriate. Now, is it a sin though to celebrate on a feast day? Uh, not necessarily, because if there's a feast, technically that can sometimes supersede what else is kind of going on. So it's not like hardcore. It's not like you're committing a sin if you celebrate on St. Joseph's Day, for example. If you decide
Exactly.
to have a glass of Chianti. And technically, I even looked this up, it's not a sin to quote unquote break what you've decided to give up for Lent. It's not a sin because it's something voluntarily entered into. So if say you break down and you have that box of chocolates on Ash, well, maybe not Ash Wednesday because it was that's why it was so hard because that was a fasting day. But
Mhm.
if you gave up something and you give in, it's not sinful because something you're doing.
Right. It's not like, "Oh, you're gonna go like, you're not gonna go
You
straight
don't
to
have to
hell."
confess it. You don't
Yeah.
have to. It's not a sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of Italian, says Biggles, that's my mom said I need to look more Italian and slick my hair back. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, there you go. But there was a tradition of also St. Joseph's table, and oh, it's just so good. And I mean, no one could. if you've not had real Italians making real Italian food, you haven't lived.
It's, it's definitely quite the experience. I highly like the reason why, at least in my call, like we don't in my family we don't celebrate
Mhm,
St. Joseph feast day because it's not really, how do I put this? Environmentally, culturally
mhm.
part of the community, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Here.
Though it
It's
should be because he's a guardian
yeah,
of the Redeemer. He's a guardian of the Holy Family. He's a guardian of the church. That's his title.
I
So
think I think
we
I think
should
the
celebrate him more in
we sh-
general.
we should, but I think it's just because there's not much of an strong Italian influence, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, I no, I got you.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and the whole Italian part, that is cultural, but I just think
Yes.
in general, maybe we should celebrate him a little more. People
That's
nothing against St. Patrick, but we celebrate St. Patrick a lot bigger than we do the guardian of the Redeemer. So it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, we
let's
do.
get our priorities straight, kids. Yeah. But what I was going to talk about, yes, the solemnity of the incarnation occurs during Lent,
Mhm.
and it is, or is it solemnity? Yeah, and or the feast, the solemnity of the Annunciation, the feast of the Incarnation, Conceptio Christi. It's got all these names. It's huge because it's the only time that we genuflect at the et incarnatus est in the creed. The creed is said on it, and we all kneel down, and the word became flesh and dwelt among us. And frankly, I don't know why it's not a day of obligation. It should be as big as it is because it's celebrating the moment that Jesus became incarnate in the womb of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So God became man at that second. So
Mhm.
that's a huge part. And the reason why I said that this is fun, I've said this in our Catholicsplaining the Lord of the Rings, but I want to say this again. The fellowship leaves on Christmas. They separate. The parting of the fellowship is at the beginning of Lent, and the ring is destroyed on March 25th.
Hmm.
Think about and think about
Mhm.
why Tolkien, being the super Catholic that he was and saying it was all a Catholic work, why did he give the date March 25th for the destruction of the ring? And everyone's like, haha, we see what you did there. Yeah, but think about it, because that's when sin is destroyed and all that, demons were conquered at the moment of the incarnation. And also, in the old tradition with a small t, people would also consider that the date of the crucifixion of Christ as well, the same place where he triumphed over. So if you like the Lord of the Rings, just watch the movies and say, "Mom, this is my Lenten devotion." Here.
This is my this is a Lenten retreat, basically, having to watch.
Exactly, but it really is. I mean, for real, and he did that on purpose. And that's why I always say you can enjoy the Lord of the Rings without catching that stuff. But if you catch it, you're like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
And especially when you put it in the perspective like that. Like,
Mhm,
you almost wanna watch it in that order, and, like,
mhm,
exactly those dates and whatever,
mhm.
to kinda get you, inspired, ready to go for the penultimate ending, as it were.
Exactly. Yes, and well, Good Friday, carrying of the cross, and
Mhm.
when the way Simon carries the cross for Jesus, and Sam carries it for Frodo, all those kind of good stuff. So that's a fun thing. So Lord of the Rings is Lent, and Lent is Lord of the Rings. So that's another way that you can have fun with Lent, because we believe in having fun here at Miss Martin Music with all of these things, and because Lent ends on Holy Thursday, and we move into the Triduum, we're not going to really talk about Good Friday, the Mass of the Lord's Supper, and that horrible day where between Jesus dying and being buried and his resurrection, because that's for another episode maybe, though I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta research that." It's like, well, Triduum comes from the 3 and
Mhm.
all that good stuff, but yeah, but Lent is over on Holy Thursday, and each week, you know, it's always the same readings each year. We go through the temptation of the desert, we do a lot of stuff in from the Old Testament with the Israelites, the the whole thing where they hold up the snake and people look at the snake during the battle, which I
Mhm.
always thought was kind of wild. And with it was Aaron. Was it Aaron? Yeah, or was it Moses? I forget who it was, and he had to hold up his arms. But I digress. All of those things are during Lent.
I
And
feel like
if you're,
that might have been now you think about it, I think that was Aaron?
yeah, it was maybe. I think Moses was gone by then. Yeah,
Yeah, because he didn't survive the desert
yeah. He went through
because
all that, and then he lost his temper, and then God is like, sorry, pal, you don't get to go to the promised land. I always felt bad for him.
I
It's like he
know.
was having a bad day.
Yeah. I mean, we could all be like Moses and have a bad day. Woo. That's
Yeah. And then,
oh.
sorry, all those 40 years, your life is gonna suck. Yeah, Christmas is specifically mentioned in being celebrated in The Hobbit. Yeah, there's a few lapses in The Hobbit into our world
Mhm.
where they, uh, I think also they talk about things like sounding like a freight train. You know, obviously they didn't have freight trains, but The Hobbit was a bit of a different work. But yes, you are correct that those some of those aspects were. And in the Lord of the Rings, he never says that, oh, this is Christmas, so rather, or this is, well, in order this is the incarnation. He just has the dates, so
Mhm.
you can follow the dates there. So
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
love Tolkien. Joseph Pierce kind of puts that all together in his books and in his essays. He's a good guy. So, well, did we cover it all? I'm trying to think. What did we miss?
Well, there's oh, usually during Lent, especially at the cathedral of any, the main cathedral, the main church, basically, for lack of a better term, just trying to come up for
Mhm.
layman for people
The
who
cathedra, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
the church of the bishop for the
yeah, the church
diocese,
of the bishop, thank you.
the cathedral.
Usually they will have what's cool in Lent that you can attend is the chrism mass, which is when they send out or they consecrate and bless the oils, and they that goes out to all the other parishes in the diocese. That those are chrism oils used for baptism. So that's
Yeah,
always
bapt
fun.
and confirmation and
Hmm.
all the and for the sacrament of the sick too, I
Hmm.
think,
Hmm.
yeah, all
And
every time we use oil.
it's a really cool mass to go to because you see, like, all the priests there, and it's really fun. I've been to, a couple of chrism masses up in Northern Virginia. Um, so
Mhm.
that's r
Yeah,
that's really neat.
it is neat, and you see all the priests, and I think they also kind of renew their vows, don't they? It's kind of like
Yes,
a
I think so. It's like yeah, yeah. Um,
yeah,
it's a renewal of their baptism and their vows. So, it's really
yeah,
neat. I like
yeah.
it.
If you could go, yeah, I've
If
been
you
a
have the
few.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have the time because it's also a very long one, but it also can be incredibly crowded, and depending on where you live, it's not always convenient to travel, and I hate people, so I don't like crowds anymore. You know, I used to like crowd. I used to do all that stuff, and now I'm like, I don't want people near me.
Teresa's like, I don't I wanna, like, get off my lawn here."
Like, you know, maybe it's just someone's mom wants to see his son, you know, or her son, but not me. So I'll let everyone else be holy on my behalf. And well, and I forgot, Tenebrae is a Wednesday. That's also a custom.
Mhm.
Have you ever been to a Tenebrae?
No, I've heard of it, but
Yeah, that's crazy. And what gets me is when they do the loud clap and you're all intense because that's supposed to mean like I guess a moment of Jesus's death or something. But
mm.
But that's the thing, yeah. And it's been a while since I used to go to all these things all the time, but again, life does happen. And as lay people, we are not required to do so. It's nice if you can. 15 candles on the tenebrae hearth. So yeah, there's 15 candles and it means darkness. Tenebrae is Latin for darkness. And after each little thing, they extinguish the candles. It's like a big countdown.
Mhm.
And it's part of, like, the liturgy of the hours, and it evolved, and it's based on the 7 last words of Jesus. And, yeah, and then at the end, they do a loud clap at the end, like, they and I remember one of the altar boys or someone would have to go back and just bang something together to make the loud noise. It's really kinda cool. Yeah, how
Okay,
do I
if you were nodding off because you had a long day at work or something like that, you certainly would wake up to that.
Yeah, it'll wake you up, and I remember the first time I went because I didn't know about a lot of this stuff,
Mm,
and the internet wasn't what the internet is today, so I was like, "What the hell was that? Did someone did someone drop something?" And it's like, "No, it's supposed to." And yeah, there's different kinda chants, and this is why I get very upset that they have not done more Gregorian chant. There was nothing that said in Vatican II we can't have Gregorian chant, and
right.
it's the greatest, some of the greatest music ever written, and just beautiful. So there's also chants that go along with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh,
Mhm.
so
And usually with Holy Thursday and Good Friday, because Holy Thursday you have the Mass, and then Good Friday is the service
mhm,
because you don't celebrate the
yep,
Mass. Um,
yep,
but all the Eucharists have been consecrated and everything on Holy Thursday in preparation for Good Friday.
yeah,
Um, but they're not necessarily requirements. Um, but for us, my family in particular, we like to do Holy Thursday, Good Friday,
mhm,
and of
yeah,
course, either depending on the situation, because family and all that kind of stuff, either Easter Vigil or go on Easter Sunday.
yeah. And if you can go through the full Triduum, and also watch with Jesus on Holy Thursday. They leave the
Yes.
Eucharist open and people that go and just stay there. The whole idea is like, will you not watch with me 1 hour? So we watch with Jesus the way the
Hmm.
apostles did, and instead they fall asleep. And sometimes people will even do tours. I have some friends that still they do that at their parish where they'll even get like a school bus and they'll go to several different churches in the area
Oh,
and visit
cool.
the Eucharist. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And the
One of
idea is, stay an hour, but or
Yeah,
longer. Yeah.
I know one of the parishes I used to go to, and I just because it was a while ago. One of my favorite moments during the Easter season and Holy Thursday, and I know it's everybody is supposed to strip the altar, but
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
this particular parish, I don't know, maybe it's just the way was laid out. It had the old school type look, and it's just everything. I mean, it was just it's maybe it's just a setting. Some parishes just have that just aura of reverence kind of thing going on,
Mhm.
and Holy Third sitting through that through Holy Thursday, the years that I was there, it was just it's
Yeah. The
it
stripping of the
really
altar.
it really it feels like it's stripping you, and it's very humbling,
Mhm.
and I always I don't know, this may sound very strange, but I sometimes get a little teary-eyed.
Oh, well, no. Well, and I'll tell you what, in the old liturgy, because I've actually sung the chant
Mm,
before of that, at
mm,
where they did the extraordinary form of the mass, and the words will just break your heart. Yeah, because that's what's kinda symbolic also of what's happening to Jesus.
and
Because remember they stripped him and they humiliated him and
mhm, and well, this one, they didn't do any singing. It was like as soon as, Holy Thursday was done, it was like that
Mhm.
was it. No singing, nothing. So it's done in absolute silence.
Oh, that's
And it's
intense.
so powerful. I
Yeah. Oh,
just
no, I would, yeah, no, I mean, hey, I'm a crier. I sometimes cry when the almost always cry when they ring the bells for the first time during the Easter vigil, because we haven't heard bells
Yep.
all through Lent. It's very beautiful and very moving,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they turn on all the lights, and then you see that it's not purple anymore; it's all white and
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
beautiful. The
Mhm.
resurrection. So yeah, we put the
Having
fun into dysfunctional. Yeah. Because we
Yeah.
are a dysfunctional family. We are,
Yeah,
and
we
we
are.
admit it. When people say, "Well, the Catholic Church is so messed up, I can't join it." It's like, well, we're
We're
a
a bunch of
family. What do you
misfits.
expect?
Yeah, we're a bunch of misfits, like,
Yeah,
we're the
like,
Isle of
whoa.
Misfit toys. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly, and we're proud of it. We're
yeah.
not perfect, and we admit it, but but we're all in this together.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. Well, as
Yeah.
we wind this down, I think any last thoughts? I think you've covered most of it. I'm trying to think if there's any other aspects of it, but um, if we've missed anything, let us know in the comments.
Mhm.
Judge
Mhm.
us, chastise us. We are not theologians. We just play ones on TV. I'm actually not even close to a theologian. I
Oh.
always tell I've never even been to any real Catholic education. I even skipped RCIA. I because you don't have to go to RCIA to when you convert. So I'm an amateur.
I'm I'm a what they call a cradle Catholic, and I'm
Cradle.
still, like, terrible at stuff. Like, people when I went to Catholic college, there were definitely other kids, other, teenagers back then, like,
Mhm.
young people who were definitely, could cite, like, the catechism from, like, front to cover, and I'm just like, "I that's not my brain, that's not how it works for me, I can't
Yeah.
do that."
Yeah, got a lot of spare time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
dear. Well, all right. Well, as we wind down, tell us where we can find you, Madge. Or Madge.
Um,
I just
I'm
put your name together, Madge. Magitek Mags. This is daylight saving times. I'm blaming this on daylight savings time.
well, for me, it's allergy season, so it's
Yeah.
awesome. Not really, but you can find me on Twitter, on YouTube, on Rumble. I am trying to stream more games over on Kick and Twitch, so you can follow me over there. But if you want to find out where I'm at, I usually will post on Twitter where I'm going to be. So make sure you follow me over there to keep up with any updates. But thank you, Teresa. This has been awesome, and thank you, chat.
Yay.
So.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. You can find me here in Miss Smart Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad. Just really ticks me off. Again, if y'all wouldn't mind keep watching my stuff, you'll find me around on various channels. Sometimes Song of Ice and Fire stream on Sporkings every now and then. Also, Nina Infinities, her Sunday hangs when we get together and do them. I'm going to be doing some more live streams. I did Narcissist versus Sociopaths. I think I'm going to do Psychopaths next because,
Ooh.
psychos. So, well, because as we're going through these things, it's like, well, what's the difference between a narcissist and a sociopath? And I was like, well, it's good because you know how there's a lot of overlap, but there are differences. And then, well, what's a psycho? And it's like, yeah, psychos are, well, they're the worst ones. They're not okay. But anyway, so I think that that's going to be my next self-help. I also might do a St. Patrick's stream. I've been putting some stuff together. I was going to do a video, but I think I'll have time to make and edit it. So maybe I'll just go live. I'll do it live.
Oh, you're gonna do it live. Oh,
Hi, St.
awesome.
Patrick. Yeah, he probably would have hated our guts. He definitely would hate St. Patrick's Day the way it's celebrated now. Oh boy.
Ugh.
We've
Oh my
had enough
gosh.
scary. Let's do terrify.
I know.
Nice.
Teresa Martin is going from let's talk about narcissists, which are
Yeah.
bad, and let's talk about psychopaths.
Yeah, psychos. Dun, dun, dun. Well, what's the difference? Because, of course, so much overlap in these, but there are actual definitions. Like narcissists are more common, obviously,
Mhm.
hopefully, because I guess psychopaths are good at hiding it. But yeah, you don't want to mess around with any of them. But narcissists out of all three are a little less dangerous. I mean, they're just usually just jerks, and you just don't want to get around them. But I digress. Well, thank you, Sean Sue, Biggles Mets, Mr. Grant Gregory, Planet Killer, Michael's Asylum, Squeak a Mouse. I'm trying to go through here and make sure I get everyone. If I do miss you, it is not intentional. It jumps on me. Salty Traveling Sea, thank you very much for being here. Smoo. Oh wait, did I say it right? Smoo.
Yeah, you did say it right.
Yeah, I did it. Smoo. Smoo the DJ. I do it right if I purse my lips. Thank you for being here, but it's easier for me to say Shmoo the DJ. But I'll work on it. I'll reign in Spain. And stay mainly in the plane. Shield Wall of Dragons, Nosferatu the Vampire, Adega Outlaw, and all of you that will be listening on the replay. Please leave me a comment and let me know. Oh, Baldo T. How could I have forgotten you? Darth Vader. We love Darth Vader here at Miss Martin Music. So have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain to repent and change your ways. Have a good evening.